My brother made fun of all the effort I put in, right in front of his buddies, saying I'd always be the broke one. So I decided to cut him out of my life completely and let him deal with his own mess. When we were kids, my older brother Travis and I were thick as thieves. We did everything together, shared our toys, had our own inside jokes, and even talked about what we wanted to do when we grew up. I was always the quiet, dependable type, while Travis was the outgoing, fearless one. If someone had told me back then that we'd end up barely speaking, I would have laughed in their face. But looking back now, I can see there were always little warning signs, small jabs, sarcastic remarks, things I just shrugged off. I never thought they meant anything serious until last month, when Travis embarrassed me in front of his friends. That night changed everything. Let me rewind a bit. I run a small landscaping company. It's nothing fancy, but it's mine. I built it from the ground up 5 years ago after quitting a corporate job that was draining the life out of me. The work is tough, but I genuinely enjoy it. There's something really rewarding about transforming a patch of dirt into a beautiful garden someone's proud of. It's not flashy, but I go to bed every night knowing I've created something real and honest. Travis's life took a totally different direction. He's always been the show-off, the guy who brags about his big finance job, his fancy apartment, and his vacations to places like Key Largo. And honestly, good for him. I never wanted his lifestyle. I was content with my simpler way of living. Or at least, I thought I was, until Travis made me feel like I should be embarrassed about it. It all went down at a family dinner. It was one of those rare nights when everyone, me, Travis, our mom Linda, and a few of Travis's friends, got together at Mom's place. Travis brought his friends along, which wasn't out of the ordinary. He loved having an audience. They were the kind of guys who wore loafers without socks and tossed around words like synergy, like it was nothing. I didn't really fit in with them, but I wasn't about to cause a scene. I just wanted to have a nice evening with Mom and head home. The first sign of trouble came early on. Travis introduced me to his friends with this weird, joking tone. This is my little brother Wade. Well, let's just say he likes to get his hands dirty. They all cracked up like it was the funniest thing they'd ever heard, but I just forced a smile. I'd gotten used to letting those little digs slide. But as the night went on, Travis's comments got meaner. So, Wade, he said loudly, cutting me off in the middle of a conversation, how's the landscaping gig? Still busting your back for pocket change? His friends laughed, and one of them chimed in, man, I could never do manual labor. My back would be toast in a week. I tried to brush it off, telling myself they didn't mean anything by it. It's going well, I replied, keeping my cool. Just landed a big contract with a new client. Travis raised an eyebrow. Oh yeah? What is it this time? Another backyard makeover, or are you finally doing something real? Everyone laughed again. My stomach twisted, but I managed to keep a straight face. It's actually a corporate campus redesign. It's a big step for me. For a split second, Travis looked surprised, but then he smirked and said, well, let's hope they pay you on time. I hear small businesses are always strapped for cash. By then, I was gripping my fork so hard my knuckles were white, but I kept my mouth shut. What was the point in arguing? Things really went downhill when dessert came out. Travis, clearly loving the attention, decided to share a little story. You know, he said, raising his wine glass and pointing at me, Wade once told me he wanted to be a millionaire by 30. Remember that, bro? I froze. I'd said that when I was 16. It was a dumb dream from way back, and he knew it. Travis kept going, laughing. Guess life had other plans, huh? But hey, at least you're doing what you love, right? His friends burst out laughing. One of them slapped Travis on the back and said, You're savage, man. I glanced at Mom, hoping she'd step in, but she just gave me this awkward, helpless smile, like she didn't want to pick sides or ruin the mood. That's when Travis delivered the final blow. You know, some people are just meant to be the poor one in the family, he said, grinning. Nothing to be ashamed of, Wade. Someone's got to keep the balance, right? I wish I could say I stood up and gave some big speech about hard work and pride, but I didn't. I just sat there, my face burning while everyone laughed. I felt like a joke, like I was just there for their entertainment. After a minute, I got up, muttered something about needing to leave early and walked out. I didn't even say goodbye to Mom. I just got in my truck and drove off. The whole way home, my mind was spinning. Was this who Travis had always been? Had I just ignored it, or had success turned him into this arrogant jerk? By the time I got home, I wasn't even mad anymore. I was just done. Done trying to win his approval, done pretending we had some great brotherly bond, done letting him treat me like I didn't matter. That night, I made up my mind. I was cutting Travis out of my life. No big scene, no dramatic fight, just silence. If he couldn't respect me, he didn't deserve my time or energy. What I didn't realize then was just how much Travis actually needed me, and how fast he'd regret burning that bridge. Update: after that family dinner, I went completely silent on Travis. No texts, no calls, no visits to Mom's house if I knew he'd be there. I didn't send him some dramatic, "we're done" message. I just stopped reaching out. At first, I figured he wouldn't even notice. Travis is always surrounded by people, friends, coworkers, girlfriends. Why would he care if his loser brothers stopped talking to him? But he noticed. Oh, he definitely noticed. The first week, he sent a few texts. "Hey, you good? Haven't heard from you. Are you really mad about that dinner? Don't be such a baby." I ignored them. I figured he'd get bored and move on. But instead, the messages kept coming and they got nastier. Wow, so this is how you're gonna be? Pathetic. If you can't handle a little teasing, maybe you're not cut out for the real world. By the third week, the texts turned into guilt trips. "Mom's upset you're being so distant. She doesn't deserve this. You're acting like a selfish, ungrateful brat. I've done more for you than you even realize." The funny thing is, Travis had never done more for me. If anything, I'd spent years trying to keep the peace, always bending over backward to make him feel good about himself. Now that I wasn't playing along, he was freaking out. At the same time, something unexpected happened. I started doing really well. After that dinner, I threw myself into my work with a focus I hadn't felt in years. I picked up 3 new clients, including that corporate campus redesign Travis had mocked. It turned out to be my biggest project yet, and when I finished, the company sent me a handwritten thank you note and a bonus check. I used that money to buy a new truck, the same one Travis had teased me about not being able to afford. And honestly, the first time I drove it, I thought about sending him a picture just to rub it in. But then I realized I didn't care anymore. He wasn't worth the effort. That's when Mom called. "Wade, you need to talk to Travis," she said, her voice heavy with that special kind of mom guilt. "But what's going on?" I asked, even though I already had a feeling this wasn't about me. He's having some money problems. He won't admit it, but I can tell. He's behind on his rent, and he had to sell his car." I leaned against the kitchen counter, my jaw clenched. Travis, the family's golden boy, was struggling. The same Travis who'd spent years rubbing his success in my face. I'd be lying if I said I didn't feel a little bit of satisfaction. "What does that have to do with me?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Mom hesitated. "You're doing well now, right? Maybe you could help him out just a little." "He's your brother, Wade." There it was, the old story. Travis messes up, and everyone else is supposed to fix it. "I'm not giving him money, Mom," I said firmly. "He doesn't respect me, and he's never cared about my life. Why should I bail him out?" "Because he's family," she said softly, "and family helps each other." I wanted to yell. Instead, I just said, "He can figure it out. He always does." Then I hung up before she could argue. That's when things really blew up. A week later, Travis showed up at my office out of the blue. I was in the middle of a meeting with a client when my assistant poked her head in and said, "There's a guy here to see you. Says he's your brother." My heart sank. I told her to give me 5 minutes to wrap up, but Travis barged in anyway, ignoring her. "Wade, we need to talk," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. I was mortified. I quickly apologized to my client and pulled Travis into the hallway. "What the hell are you doing?" I whispered. Travis crossed his arms, looking more worn out than I'd ever seen him. His usual polished look was gone, his shirt was wrinkled, and his hair looked like he hadn't bothered with gel in weeks. You're really going to ignore me when I'm going through all this? He snapped. Do you have any idea what I'm dealing with right now? I don't, I said, keeping my voice cool, because you've never bothered to tell me. And barging into my office isn't the way to fix that. He scoffed. Oh please. Like you're so busy with your little landscaping business. Don't act like you're too good to help your own brother. I felt my temper flare, but I kept it together. I'm not too good, Travis. I'm just tired of being treated like I don't matter. If you're here to apologize, we can talk. But if you're here to guilt me into something, you can leave. Travis stared at me like I'd slapped him. For a second, he looked lost, but then his face hardened. Fine, he said. If you want to play this self-righteous card, go ahead. Just don't come crying to me when you need help someday. And with that, he stormed out. Here's where things got even crazier. A few days later, I got a call from one of Travis's friends, the same guy who'd laughed at the poor one in the family joke at dinner. Let's call him Greg. Hey Wade, Greg said, sounding awkward. I heard about what's been going on with Travis. He mentioned you two aren't talking. Yeah, I said, not sure where this was going. Why? Well, I don't know if he's told you, but he's in pretty deep with some bad debt, credit cards, payday loans, all that. He's been trying to keep it quiet, but it's catching up with him. I just thought you should know. I didn't know what to say. Was Greg trying to guilt me too, or was he actually worried? Thanks for letting me know, I said finally, but Travis's problems aren't mine to fix. Greg sighed. Yeah, I figured you'd say that. Just keep an eye on him, okay? He's not in a good place right now. I hung up, my mind spinning. What was Travis really dealing with, and how much worse was it going to get? Final update, Travis was always the guy who landed on his feet, no matter how reckless he got. Growing up, he could talk his way out of trouble, charm teachers into giving him extensions, and always find someone to bail him out. He used to joke, I've got 9 lives, and honestly, I think he believed it. But this time, I wasn't going to be his safety net, and for the first time, Travis was about to find out what it's like to face the consequences on his own. It started with a strange phone call from Mom. It was about 2 weeks after Travis barged into my office. I hadn't heard from him since, and honestly, I thought, maybe even hoped he'd finally gotten the message. But then Mom called, her voice tight with worry. Wade, Travis has been acting strange, she said. What do you mean? I asked, already bracing myself. He's been calling me at all hours, asking for money. He even suggested selling some of my jewelry to help him out. I told him no, but he's been so desperate and angry. He's not himself. I sighed, rubbing my temples. Mom, this isn't your problem to solve. I know, she said quietly, but he's my son. I can't just sit back and watch him fall apart. I wanted to tell her that sometimes people need to hit rock bottom to learn, but I knew she wouldn't hear it. Travis had always been her favorite, no matter what trouble he caused. And while I resented that as a kid, I get it now. She loves him, flaws and all. Still, I refused to step in. I wasn't going to play the hero anymore, not after everything he'd done. Then Travis hit a new low. A few days later, I was unloading supplies from my truck when my phone buzzed. It was a text from Travis. Wade, we need to talk. Please. It wasn't his usual tone, no sarcasm, no guilt trips, just 2 words that felt heavy. Against my better judgment, I replied, What's going on? He answered almost right away, I need help. Part of me wanted to ignore him, to let him deal with his own mess like I'd promised myself I would. But another part, the part that still cared, even after everything, needed to know what was happening. So I called him. His voice was a mix of anger and exhaustion when he picked up. I'm screwed, Wade. I've got creditors breathing down my neck, I'm months behind on rent, and I might lose my apartment. I've got nowhere else to turn. I stayed quiet, letting it all sink in. Travis, the guy who always acted like he had it all together, was finally admitting he didn't. And while a small, petty part of me wanted to say, I told you so, I also felt a pang of something else. Maybe pity, maybe disappointment. What do you want me to do about it? I asked. I need a loan, he said, not sugarcoating it. Just enough to get me back on my feet. I'll pay you back as soon as I can. I almost laughed. Travis, you've spent years looking down on me, making fun of my business, my hard work, and now you're asking me for money? There was a long pause. I'm desperate, Wade, he said finally. I don't know what else to do. It was the closest thing to an apology I'd ever gotten from him, but it wasn't enough. I'm sorry, Travis, I said, but I can't help you. Not this time. He didn't yell or argue like I expected. Instead, he just said, fine, and hung up. And for a second, I wondered if I'd made the right call. The fallout was rough. The next time I saw Travis was at Mom's house. She'd invited me over for dinner, and while she hadn't said he'd be there, I wasn't surprised to find him sitting at the table when I walked in. He looked awful, like he hadn't slept in days. The usual confidence was gone, replaced by something I couldn't quite name, maybe fear. Dinner started off awkward, with Mom trying to fill the silence with small talk. But it didn't take long for Travis to snap. So, Wade, he said, his voice dripping with sarcasm, how's the landscaping empire? Still raking in the big bucks. I set my fork down and looked him in the eye. It's going well, thanks for asking. He laughed bitterly. Must be nice. Some of us aren't so lucky. Travis, Mom said gently, putting a hand on his arm, don't start. No, it's fine, I said, keeping my voice steady. I get it. Travis is upset because I wouldn't bail him out. But here's the thing, this isn't about luck. It's about choices. And you've made a lot of bad ones. The room went silent. Travis's face turned red, and for a second, I thought he might blow up. But instead, he just pushed his chair back and stormed out, slamming the door behind him. That was the last time I saw Travis, at least in person. Over the next few months, I heard bits and pieces about him from Mom. He'd moved out of his apartment, sold most of his stuff, and was crashing on a friend's couch. His fancy job, gone. His social circle, vanished. It was like his whole life fell apart overnight. And while part of me felt bad for him, I also knew it wasn't my job to fix. Travis had spent years tearing me down, mocking my hard work, and acting like nothing could touch him. Now he was finally facing the consequences of his own choices. The resolution came out of nowhere. One day, I got a letter in the mail. It was from Travis. I almost didn't open it, thinking it'd be another plea for money or a half-hearted apology. But when I finally read it, I was surprised by what he wrote. Wade, I don't know if you'll even read this, but I need to say it anyway. I'm sorry for everything, for the way I treated you, for the things I said, for thinking I was better than you. I was wrong. You've always been the better man, and I see that now. Watching you build your life from the ground up while I let mine fall apart has been humbling. I don't expect you to forgive me, and I don't blame you for cutting me off, but I wanted you to know that I'm trying to change. Thank you for standing your ground. It was the wake-up call I needed. Travis, I read the letter twice, then folded it up and put it back in the envelope. I wasn't sure what to do with it, or how to feel. But for the first time in a long time, I felt like Travis might actually be ready to change. And while I wasn't ready to let him back into my life just yet, I knew this wasn't the end of our story. Maybe, just maybe, we'd find our way back to being brothers again.